I don't feel alone. We just settled in and it already feels like home.
You're listening to the Feels Like Home podcast with Mike Throne and Marty Ford. Powered by Horizon. This is big. This is gig. Hey everybody, welcome to the Feels Like Home podcast. I'm super excited about this episode. We sat down with a really good friend of mine, Zach Breth. He is the director of the Chillicothe Athletic Center. And we talk about Zach coming back to town after he graduated from college and what he's been doing since in the world of soccer and sports and helping create a really strong youth program in our area for soccer, and then how that has turned into building programming for all sports at the Chillicothe Athletic Center, and talking about how that project has grown and what it's turned into. And they just celebrated their grand opening last week, and he's excited to share that story with us. So can't wait for you to hear this conversation. Again, this is Zach Breth, the Chillicothe Athletic Center. We hope you enjoy.
Well, we want to welcome Zach Breth to the podcast. Zach is what's the official title? Director of the?
Coordinator.
Okay, good. That's a good distinction to make. Of the Homeland Credit Union Cavalier Athletic Center, which was the former Chillicothe, well, it was Swim and Racquet Club at one point in time, and it became, I think, the Racquet Club. Right. And of course, a few years back, that building was sold to the Chillicothe City Schools, and then they developed it with the help of some partners. And it's now become, I was just there last week for the ribbon cutting, and it has become already a tremendous asset to our community and to our student athletes. But I want to welcome Zach Breth to the podcast. Great to have you on, man.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. So let's kind of start there. I think just to kind of give some people that maybe don't know you, your background, you're a CHS grad.
Yep, 2002.
You left and went to the greatest school in the history of the world, Bowling Green State University.
That's right.
But then you came back. And so let's talk a little bit about that and just like what it was like growing up here, being an athlete, being a student at Chillicothe, and then what that training kind of did for you when you went to college a little bit.
Right. Yeah. So, Chillicothe graduate in 2002. And like for me growing up in sports, most of my sport was like backyards and like play and recreational. YMCA, dad coached me, and soccer. And I didn't really get into a lot of the other sports organized. I was more so, backyard sports. I played a lot of, backyard baseball. I played a lot of, backyard football, things like that. And not a lot of organized sports outside of soccer. Mm-hmm. And then, I ran track my senior year of high school and then when I got to Bowling Green, they had just cut the track team. So off to Bowling Green, and I'm like determined to be a Division I college soccer player. And that was like the goal. And I got there, I tried out for the club team. I had some challenges with that. I trained with the first team, and that's probably when I really fell in love with soccer. So, that was kind of unique, I think. And that I didn't really experience like youth soccer and high school soccer the same as what a lot of people did, I think. And so like fell in love with sport then too. I did a lot of intramural sports, a lot of club sports, when kind of I didn't have a lot of organized growing up. And then the track and field was like I got deeper into that also in college, which is, only running my senior year in high school, and then going off to college and like finding a sport after not really getting much of it in high school. And I really did. I ran a lot, and I was fortunate. The coach that was at Bowling Green when I got there, they cut the program. Coach Tom Wright still wanted to coach, so I got the opportunity to run track with a high level coach in almost a one-on-one environment. And it changed me as like an athlete and that's probably where I like fell in love with coaching, and learning that from him, what was like life changing. So like I didn't really grow up in sport as much as it would appear at this point, because it's like my whole life. And it happened more at the college level at the greatest university on the face of the planet.
Yeah. And that's a really interesting part, I think, of your story, is that you talk about getting that one-on-one instruction kind of ignited that fuel in you as a coach. But I think, to go back to your like formative years here, not getting the benefit of like really strong youth programs, I think we've really come a long way in that regard. I mean, you're part of FCFC right now and things like that, where you've been doing work, to help bolster these things so these kids have better opportunities and can learn the game a lot better. Is that a big passion of yours? And, does that feel like where it really started for you?
Yeah, I think so. I think because I didn't, and I believe that those organizations, those structures and leagues existed when I was growing up, but maybe not to the same degree. And it was all very much like volunteer and parent run. And I give credit to that. I mean, my dad was my youth soccer coach, and obviously taught me something because I could play.
Right.
But I learned so much so fast at the college level, and look back, like didn't realize that the world of soccer was so much bigger. But that's the case for every sport, And I think there just weren't as many programs, and they weren't at the same level growing up, and we weren't maybe exposed to them. And so when I was in college and looking at all these athletes and the amount of sport that they did, I just felt like we were missing some opportunities here.
Yeah.
Specifically with soccer, because I was like, man, we didn't have club soccer. We had a couple teams that organized and played a little bit more outside of Chillicothe than just recreational soccer, but like not to the level of the guys I was playing with all of a sudden. That had traveled all over the place and had, professional level coaching that did not exist here at all.
Not to mention the fact that we now have a soccer complex at Koppel that is a tremendous facility, not to mention the fact that we have, Hernstein as a brand new athletic complex, the Harris Athletic Complex, that turf and so on.
Right.
I mean, like we have better facilities and can really, I think, draw better coaches, better athletes,
Absolutely. Like Chillicothe's almost become a hub for youth soccer in the Southeast District from Koppel, from the club, more organized youth programs and opportunities. Obviously, indoor soccer has grown that as well. And we hope to get involved in that with futsal, because futsal is kind of a new and upcoming sport, separate from soccer. And I think that's important to note. But, just Chillicothe as a whole has become that kind of, I think, a hub for all the Southeast District. And, it's evident in kind of the success of some of our high school teams. And I think that's going to just continue to grow.
Well, yeah. And I think obviously the athletic complex, really gets into that, because one of the things I guess you could say is that the training facilities were not at a level that as everything else was rising. Now there's zero way of saying that, because I mean, again, I toured it last week. It is an elite training facility that you're coordinating over there.
Yeah. So it's right. I think the new facility, the Cavalier Athletic Center, is a facility that matches the programming that we're just talking about. Right? Yeah.
I mean, I think, and it's really interesting because the kids were in there playing futsal when we were there, and there's some people grabbing tennis rackets and going out there. I mean, I think what you've really created and scratch. I think Jen's home, by the way.
I think so. It happens every podcast. It's okay.
I think the really cool thing about it is that it's such a significant investment in our community. The city or the school district obviously used the money that they got from the sale of Allen and a few others to help buy the building, but then securing the agreement from Homeland, Credit Union, Norse, and the Moose, and now AEP for the esports arena. I mean, that's a true community partnership at that point.
Right. So I caught rumor that the school district was going to get, the opportunity to own the Racquetball Club, which is in my head it's Racquetball Club, and it's never been that. Like the business was never Racquetball Club, but that's what I've always called it.
Right.
Everybody in the community.
Yeah.
It's
kind of like the Mead. Right?
Yeah, the
Like,
Mead. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I caught that rumor, and I'm pretty sure that it was donated. I wasn't involved at all in that process. I believe the Schwimmlines gave it to the city school district, and I caught some rumor of that. And immediately I sent a Facebook message to Steve Mullins, like right afterward. And I'm not even really sure at the time if he knew who I was, but I like sent him a Facebook message. I'm like, hey, I heard a rumor. And if this is the case, I want to be involved, because I looked at that building. I've ran some smaller winter training programs for soccer over the years. We used Tiffin, we used Bishop Leger, and we just never really could find a spot. Mm-hmm. And then we found, what we referred to as the bunker, which was a Quonset hut that we renovated into a little soccer facility, which was phenomenal, and I love that space. Yeah. But looking at the the size and the stature of the Racquetball Club building and just that possibility, I was like, hey, Steve, I'd love to get involved if that's ever a possibility. And at the time, I don't even think it was public that it was happening. It was just somebody telling me kind of on the side, and I was like, I've got to be involved in that somehow. At the time, also probably selfishly for the purpose of soccer, in my head and when I first heard it, but and then of course the opportunity comes up later when the school has the building, and it's like, we've got this great opportunity. What's it going to become? How are they going to use it? And like, there were some committee meetings, and I'm like asking questions, and I don't think that there was certainly a vision from the district to turn it into something, but I don't think specifically anybody had a real plan or a real understanding of what it could be. It was, a lot of people with a lot of ideas and a great vision and a huge opportunity that they couldn't pass up. But like formalizing that and getting it to what you saw on Friday,
right.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that was the initial intent.
Yeah, and I mean, there's still some great work ahead on that. The lobby area is about to start getting some renovations, I hear, and then of course the investment from AEP to do the esports arena, which, if there's somebody else doing that, especially in Southern Ohio, I've not heard about it. There may be nobody doing that anywhere in Ohio for all I know. But it's a tremendous step forward for Chillicothe and Ross County for sure.
Right. So with regard to esports, it's become really popular at the collegiate level.
Yeah.
Right. So our Southern State, Shawnee, I'm pretty sure Shawnee plays at a pretty high level.
Yeah, they do.
And I've visited and toured Rio Grande's facility as well, and what they're putting together for esports. So there's, as far as like Southern Ohio esports goes, I think at the college level there's quite a few. Mm-hmm. At the high school level, we have a team. Mm-hmm. They're competing. They compete with other local teams. Zane Trace, I think, has a really competitive program, and like, it's not really my world. I haven't done a lot of I haven't done any competitive gaming,
right?
Aside from like playing Halo with some guys in college, and Bowling Green in the dorms.
Oh, that totally qualifies.
Yeah, and I think I've aged out of my possibility to be really good at video gaming. But it's going to be right next to my office, so I might give it a try.
Maybe give it back in, right?
Right, so. and so when we got the building, and I ended up getting hired, and my plan with the building initially was to operate just as the, fitness and racket club, and learn, right? Just sit back and say, all right, well, there was a plan in place for that business, and it worked, and let's not disrupt anything, and let's just kind of let the school roll out that same business model from an operations standpoint, and figure out what they do now, what programs there are, and what we can keep, what we have to change. And I was like, that could take me 6 months, a year, just to kind of watch. Yeah. And so we got things, I got hired in August. We took over operation October of 19, and really just set up as a fitness facility. with tennis, a tennis club with a fitness facility, right? And to sit back and watch it. And, we kept the same membership stuff going. And it was like, well, we can, also use the space for our track team to run through the winter. And so without changing any surfaces, we did that. I tried a little bit of futsal on the tennis court. And it just never really felt safe.
Yeah.
It's like street soccer, and that's tough. It can be done, but it's just tough to do that, like from an organized sports standpoint.
Yeah.
And then, so we just sit back, watch things operate, keep it going, and figure things out. And then, we made it to March and things were rolling. We were learning. I'm starting to get into what we could do. We started to look at making the building more efficient, upgrading the lights. We start looking at some of those things, and then we shut down for COVID.
Yeah.
And the learning of the business completely shuts down.
Yep.
And it was like, all right, well, we're ready to roll. Let's renovate. At that point, we've raised, Debbie Bettendorf and Steve Mullins had worked with those, obviously with Homeland. That was a huge, we had that money already, that deal was already done. So we had kind of seed money to get things started for renovation. It was a huge investment for them. And we're grateful. I mean, we couldn't have got off the ground without that. Yeah. And so it was like, all right, well, we have that. So let's spend that with, as intelligent as we can, right? Mm-hmm. Can we use that to upgrade the most important things first, and also make the building more energy efficient? So that was kind of a starting point, but we weren't ready to do that in March when we shut down for COVID, right, unfortunately. So that, like looking at it now, look back a little bit, and it's like, it's taken us a long time to get it to what you saw Friday.
Yeah.
But, like COVID also was the kind of, as far as the silver lining goes, it was an opportunity for us to shut it all down and start to rebuild it with that vision. And that's what, that's the process that we started. But like you said, there's still renovations to go. Yeah. But we started with the performance spaces. So where the tennis courts were, that we kind of referred to as the gym with that multi-sport approach, obviously it needed a new floor to be multi-sport. The lighting was ancient. You had the buzz. Some of the lights didn't always come on. To replace a light, you were $1,000 just to replace a light bulb. And so that project.
Did you also get new heating elements in there as well?
Yeah.
They looked like they were brand new.
Yep. So as far as the gym goes, new floor, new lights. We put in an insulated liner. So that helps also with the lighting project, but also heating and cooling. So we pretty much made that room incredibly energy efficient. Mm-hmm. And part of that was also adding the heating. And then over this past summer, after we've done all that, that liner was like a membrane and trapped the air in it. Yeah. And so the building could breathe before that. And so the summer was hot, but it wasn't humid. Mm-hmm. And there were a couple of days over the summer that was so humid. Caroline was coaching in there. Yeah. We did those summer programs, and it was brutal how hot and humid it was. I mean, like you could feel the humidity on the floor. And it's like, well, now we need air conditioning too. So that came in kind of late in the project because of how airtight the building is now. So lights, liner, floor, new components. I mean, if you walk in that gym, and I invite everybody to come out and take a look, completely different space.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think you would be in a different place if COVID had not happened? Would it have allowed you to do the renovation and the plan that where you're at now, if you didn't have that time where you just had to shut the facility down?
Not at all. Not a chance. I don't know how we would have gotten to where we are now without COVID, but it would not. The process would have been completely different and so much more difficult. But I went from like, how can we program this place? Youth sports, which is like really what I've been into since I graduated, since I moved back here. Youth sports programming, camps, clinics, leagues. I mean, that's where I feel like I think that's why I got the job. It was like, at least we'll be able to program it. We'll be able to use it for our youth and figure those things out. To like take that hat off in 1 month, not really 1 month because we were shut down, quarantined with it. But like right when we got back into it and we like looked to renovate the building, I was no longer youth soccer coach. I was like construction manager and like renovation. Like right. I'm reading structural drawings. I have no idea.
Yeah.
You know, I'm reading like, you know, different, comparing flooring and comparing all the possibilities with the lights and liners and insulation and what the best thing is. It was like overwhelming, but it was also so cool because it's like, you know, like how can we transform this building into something amazing for the school and for our students and for the community? And without COVID, it would have been in chunks, and we'd have had to shut areas down and change, you know, you'd have to change programming. You have to be, you know, walking around the outside of the building. And with COVID, it allowed us to shut that down. Now, if I were ready and knew it was coming, you know, it would have been a 6-month project.
Right.
But instead we're like, you know, 18-month project because nobody was that far along. And also, you know, so we had the Homeland money early doors and we, you know, you go through that. It's a huge investment, big building, but you look at those, when you go to do a 40,000 square foot floor, you spend money pretty fast, you know? And you start looking at that and it's like, man, we're going to spend some money. So then the other groups start coming in, you know, and the naming right concept, the different areas allowed us to kind of spend that money on those areas. So then Norris came in and it was like, the gym can be done with some, you know, some of Homeland and with Norris coming in. And then we started to look at the other areas like the racquetball space. And I'm telling you guys, it was crazy the amount of time I spent with different architects and different construction. You know, there's 5 racquetball rooms. We looked at tearing down all those walls and making that one big room, right? 100 by 40. And I had a plan to turf it and put batting cages. And then you find out that racquetball was built on a kit and it's all structural. It's all built as one, and we're not taking out the walls. Right. And you spend a month with that idea and like that vision is like, awesome. This is what we'll do with it. And the more you learn about it, you're like, okay, we could do that. For, you know, with $1 million, anybody could have changed that. You could torn it down and rebuild it.
But it wasn't smart use of your money and going down that path.
Yeah. And that was every project was, all right, here's what it could be and what's the most cost effective way to change it. And then, you know, it was like the fitness center was, you know, the equipment is in great shape. Yeah. It was utilized regularly by the community. It was like, it's the amount of weight we have in there is awesome.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Plates are fantastic. And you have all that. And it's like, all right, well, we got to keep this and we got to use it. But what else could that space look like? And so then that's when we get Perfection 1 that comes in and it's like, well, how much do you think it's going to take to really make this room what we want it to be? And it's, you know, you have that conversation and then, you know, Jason Rose, he's like, let's do it. He got his family involved. They look at it and they support the project. And it's like, all right, we can now finish this space. Yeah. And that, you know, that happened. And if you look in that space now, we got to design that space. We expanded it so the double racquetball room becomes the fitness center room now, right? Which is bikes, treadmills, ellipticals, community use, our Silver Sneakers program, staff, you know, after school, you know, they're using that. And at the same time, which was the old fitness center, becomes the Perfection 1 body shop. Mm-hmm. And that we put in a new floor, squat racks, open that space up. And with Joe Spalding, he's our strength and conditioning coach for the school. We designed that space kind of intentionally for his program to implement the sports performance program with our athletes. And we can do that at the same time as staying open to the community. Yeah. Which, again, in the beginning when we shut down for COVID, it was like, we'll probably just reopen for our kids and not be able to do the fitness center, you know? Right. And now we can do both. And it's you know, it's pretty awesome. Now there are some people that want to get up there into the body shop when the teams are training. We want to keep that separate, but it's still, you know, utilized by both the majority of the time.
Feels Like Home will be right back. From talking to neighbors to connecting to the world, Horizon's internet, digital TV, phone, and security services are all that you need. At Horizon, they have been keeping the residents and businesses of Southern Ohio in touch with their world for over 120 years. And just as the world of communication has changed during that time, so has Horizon. Today, they are your best source to get the services you need to keep your home and business connected to the world around you and beyond. To learn more, go to horizonconnects.com. And now we're back.
So talk a little bit about how the community can use it. Like what are the parameters there and things like that? Because I think there's some misconceptions out there, and I'd like to clear some of those up for.
Right, and I think initially there was a lot of worry, like, oh, the school has it. We're not even going to be able to play tennis anymore. Mm-hmm. And so like my first day of work, I had people like, are we going to be able to play tennis? I'm like, I don't even know yet. Can somebody show me where the bathroom is? Like, I didn't spend a lot of time in that building. Like, I didn't really even know. So the kind of the approach from the beginning was students and staff is the priority, right? It's our the school district is taking on all the financial risk and so that's where it started. It was like, let's make sure that's, when we look at the spaces for renovation and programming, let's start with our students and staff. And so our students at the high school level have a membership. They can come and go. They can play basketball. They play tennis. They, go to the fitness center, like a membership, mm-hmm. and they're free. They get to do that. And then our staff has a membership too. So anybody on staff gets to do that. We the staff family is an upgrade for them. So they go from a free membership to a paid, and they can just upgrade their membership for their family. So that's the start with memberships. And then we have a Silver Sneakers program, which Silver Sneakers is a program. It's covered under Medicare. It's designed to keep people active in retirement, and we have Misty Allen runs Silver Sneakers classes, and then Silver Sneakers covers their pickleball, fitness visits, things like that. So that Silver Sneakers program is a really good opportunity for the community. And I think that's going to expand. There's some new programs coming out with different insurance companies. So I've got a call tomorrow about how we can expand that and that world. Again, I can't wrap my mind around the Medicare and the supplements and options. Not even
close to retirement age.
Yeah. Yeah. And it will all change before
exactly.
Yeah,
totally different
or won't exist. So those programs will continue, and they're great because, a lot of those programs and classes take place when our kids aren't there. Mm-hmm. And then kind of the third level, is rentals or sessions. And so if somebody wants to just come in, they aren't interested in being a member, but they want to just come in and play tennis. So we have options for people to just come in and buy sessions and play tennis. So you can play doubles, play singles, drop in and play pickleball. And I think those programs will expand too, like adult open futsal. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to be a member to be involved in that. You just come in, you pay your $5 and you play, open futsal. So we did kind of a soft opening with that in March, actually, coming off of, March of 21, coming off of COVID. We were limited in opening, and we let, tennis groups play when they would schedule with us. And, we still have a racquetball room. So people come in and just drop in and play racquetball. Now the full opening, which was kind of September 1st of 21, we have members. Okay. So the membership, we've got different levels of that. We've got a non-CCSD student membership, which is $25 a month for anybody that's not a Chillicothe student. And then we have community memberships, which is $35 for a single monthly and $50 for a family. Mm-hmm. And that's open to anybody.
Yeah. And of course that includes the use of the courts and everything like that. So
right
now, where the pool used to be back in the day, and I think was converted to outdoor courts, is that still going to remain an outdoor court space? Because I think I remember hearing something about this on Friday, but then I've quickly forgotten it because I'm old. So Talk a little bit about that outdoor space. So
the outdoor space. So there were 3 clay tennis courts, and they were pretty much overgrown. If you know anything about clay tennis courts,
it's hard to maintain.
A
lot of maintenance,
daily maintenance and watering, and so we were never going to be able to, revamp those into clay courts. So we look at that space and it's like, all right, well, that space is kind of next as well. So we look at it and you go through that same, what could it be? Mm-hmm. How much would it cost to do this? What's the best surface? What's the best, route to go? And so we also, our tennis team would love to have a kind of more of a home, mm-hmm. right? A place for them to play. Sharing
not the park, that, not right? OUC.
Yeah. Sharing that with mm-hmm. It's hard. Like you go to a lot of schools and you see that they have their own tennis courts on their campus, mm-hmm. right. And the park's a great place to play tennis. It's just hard to shut that down for our teams to play and practice every day. It's just not really conducive for coaching, because you've got the community right there and mm-hmm. skate park and everything else, which are fine. It's just not great to play tennis next to.
Right.
So we're gonna turn the 3 clay courts into hard courts.
Okay.
And that project should start up in as soon as the weather breaks in the spring. Mm-hmm. And then you had the pool, which was in front of that. So between the road and the clay courts was the pool with the deck. And I have, I've been there a couple times when I was a kid, and I can remember what that looked like. That is not what it looked like when we got the building. Right. And so you look at that and you're like, oh, it's going to be like, what are we going to do there? I foresee long term that we're going to have some parking issues. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of my job, right? To generate programming and activity in the center so that, we fill the place up. And if we're filling the place up, we're going to need more parking. So I think eventually where the pool will need to be a parking lot. But for now, the most inexpensive route to go was to just tear it out as much as we can, bury it and flatten it. So it's just a green space right now.
Okay.
And we managed to do that project well under budget. Well, I mean, it was a fantastic use of money there.
Right.
So, and with the vision that it could someday be a parking lot.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. When you look at, obviously, you do a project like this, and I think some people in the public, they just expect immediate results, right? But it's really about changing the mindset, I think, of not only the district and then the students in the district and then the adults, really, because the students will pick it up pretty quickly, right?
Yeah.
How do you see this evolving, 10 years down the road? Like, do you really see this as being, like a real shining star for Southeast Ohio, where like there's nothing like this in most places? Even powerhouses like Wheelersburg and Ironton don't have things like this. And so, like, do you feel like it'll become the envy of, most schools?
Absolutely. I really think, and Marty, you probably know this better than anybody with me. I really think that what you do from kindergarten to 8th grade at the youth sport level makes the biggest difference at the high school level, right? We can't just walk in your freshman year, or a coach can't just get a player or an athlete as a 9th grader and turn them into an all-state player in any sport, right?
Yeah.
It's really, if they're starting at that point, it's really too late. So I see the athletic center as a great way to develop those athletes from kindergarten to 8th grade.
Wow.
While also training. And I think our off-season programs are going to be great in there, but I think kind of the hub for our youth sports is what I think it's going to become. And that is like the key to success at the high school level is really what you do then. And so the amount of opportunities that this building and the facility will create for our students, and not just our students, but like every student, right?
Yeah.
So I think one of the best examples so far of things to come is we've got this tennis clinic that goes on where Circleville, our Chillicothe coaches, the Circleville coach, and a coach from Waverly and a coach from Jackson come into the athletic center with their kids and run the clinic, and they're coaching each other's kids, and the kids are able to play through the winter, which, and it's inexpensive, right? Like we're requiring those kids just to be members. So the coaches are volunteering because they're working with their kids in the off season, which every high school coach, I mean, all the good ones and most high school coaches, spend a lot of their off season volunteering their time to help the students or athletes. You have that going on with multiple schools, and that collaboration is different. That doesn't occur a lot in youth sports. It doesn't occur a lot in high school sports, but it's happening right now at the athletic center and with tennis. And that's only that's just the start, right? We're at the very beginning of those types of things.
Yeah. I mean, you could see that happening with basketball. You could see that happening with, soccer through futsal. I mean, like there's a myriad of things that really could lend itself well to that, where you're getting that kind of exposure. I mean, I look at, I'm from Northern Ohio originally, and they do summer basketball leagues where girls from different teams play on the same team together. It's almost like an AAU concept, but it's at a much more micro level. So it's just in that league that I grew up in, the Sandusky Bay Conference. And you could see something like that happening there because you've got multiple courts and, ways to do that. So it's just an interesting concept because, again, like, not when I first heard about the concept of it, I thought, well, this kind of seems like an extravagance, doesn't it? Yeah. But the more you think about it, the more it really kind of makes sense, not only from a student athlete perspective, but from a community perspective too. That's the joy of it is watching that community aspect of it really start to develop,
Right. So like Friday was pretty cool because we had our high school boys, get together and play a futsal, pickup futsal, right? They're just playing on court 4 pickup futsal. Before the grand opening was really announced and publicized, we had a group that was coming in to play pickleball. And so they were in there, they were scheduled, and, it was a great opportunity to see pickleball for a lot of people that may not even know what it is. Yep. And so you have our high school kids are playing futsal next to a community group that just is in there to play pickleball. And then a group comes in to play tennis. And then we have to switch over court 1 to a volleyball net because we have some high school girls that want to get, some serves in and hit before their tryouts on the weekend. So we had volleyball going on 1, tennis on 2, pickleball on 3, and futsal on 4 in all different levels, students and community, which it was like perfect that it happened right when it did because the community was there to see what the facility is going to look like. And that's what I see it looking like, complete multi-sport and opportunities for everything.
Yeah. If you look at the top level programs throughout the state of Ohio, you look at the state Final Four and all of these sports and even tennis and things, you can usually go back and look and see what those schools provide and what they have at their disposal. And a lot of them will have maybe not a center like this, but not just the tennis court out by the school that kids are working out at. They have other opportunities, like you keep talking about how important that is. How do you think that will change the level of competitiveness from our student athletes at a level, at a state level? I mean, do you think it will have an impact on that?
I think it's got to. I mean, when you have those kind of opportunities that pop up and it's organized enough and structured enough, and the kids, and it's fun, I think you'll have greater retention with players, with athletes, because they have, better access to it, better facility to play in, and they can't get away from it really, and then it's affordable, for our Chillicothe students, for the community. It's still, it's still going to be, like you look at some of those areas that you're talking about with like state finals and, some of those programs or some of those opportunities only exist for like those who can't afford it. And I think we're, with the community involvement, we're able to provide that. And then, like retention, keeping the kids, I look back and I'm like, man, my 8th grade football team was fantastic. Like we should have won so many, and then they weren't playing with, like, half the kids didn't continue to play football, or, they get into all kinds of different things and didn't, kind of realize that. I think it's not just the athletic center that's going to keep kids involved in sport, but, the access and the opportunity is going to be there. And so it's got to translate into better, more competitive teams, with, just the process.
Yeah. I'm interested in one part of your story. You mentioned that your dad coached you. I know that your grandfather was very active. He was on city council, I think. And that's that's those two men pouring into their community. And then here you are kind of pouring into the community again. Is there a feeling that you're kind of like continuing your family's legacy in that regard?
Yeah, so I really admired and looked up to my grandpa, and at one point, I mean, I've had these conversations too about, like he was president of city council, and I remember when he ran for mayor, right? And so like part of me at one point was like, I'm gonna follow that route. If I end up in Chillicothe, I'm gonna go down that route. I don't think that, for me personally, that politics is going to be the direction that I go, but very much so. It's like, it started with coaching soccer, but it's become more than that. I think it's, giving back to the community, and like kind of devoting almost my life to it. And I enjoy every second of that. And I think it comes from what like my grandpa knew everybody, and like I run into people now, and it's like, so I run into them, and they're like, "Oh, my first job was for your, for your grandpa," and I'm like, I don't even, it's crazy how many people he positively affected, and I hope that someday that same kind of thing happens where, somebody says, "Well, your dad," to my daughters, "Your dad was my first soccer coach," something, that kind of stuff happens. And yeah, so as far as like the community goes, and I ended up back here thinking I'll provide a youth soccer opportunity that I didn't have as a kid, and now I think it's providing sports opportunities, athletic opportunities that didn't exist before for everybody. Yeah, and I think it's really hard for me because most people. Even when I got the job, it was like, oh, it's going to be a soccer place now, Right. And like, I really want people to know that I'm in every sport, and I'm, like learning and like working with Joe Spalding now. And he's very much a baseball guy, and I'm not. If anybody knows, baseball has not been my thing over the years, but to share some coaching elements and how we can learn from each other. I don't know how this came from the grandpa thing, but it's fine.
Oh, it's all good.
But so to pick up other sports and to collaborate with other coaches, which I haven't gotten that opportunity to do because I've been at the soccer field. Right. I mean, I watched some football games and we watched some basketball games, but I shadowed some coaches, in other sports when I, as part of, when you get I got a master's in coaching. So you kind of get pushed out of the sport that you're in to learn a little bit about the other sports. But I now get to see all of it. I get to see the coaching of, we've had baseball practices and softball practices and lacrosse practice and track practices. We've had basketball practices in there, and now, I'm getting to see that coaching, and I'm getting to have an impact on those athletes and provide, more opportunities, share with them what we do in soccer, which I think we've been very successful with, and how can we implement some of that into the other sports. Yeah.
Well, and I think, the aspect of community is growing outside of your bubble, right? If you're a soccer guy, then, you may not have a tremendous amount of interest in lacrosse, but you're willing to learn and you're willing to, grow your knowledge of a sport to help other people get better at their sport. Right. And to help your school's teams. And I think that's community too. It's as much a community as it is to run for mayor or be on city council or to run a store that people, right. Get their first job in. So, I mean, we don't all have to do the same thing to make our community better. We just got to do our thing.
Right.
And I think you're doing your thing, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And I can say this because I'm a dad of two girls that grew up in your programs. You were their coach multiple years, and I mean, I can tell you that you're making a great positive impact on students, and you will have those conversations down the road where like talking to your daughters, yeah, your dad was my first soccer coach. Well, I mean, I just through osmosis, just being around you, I've learned so much more about the game, and I coached a number of years and got out of coaching because I felt like I didn't have anything else to give. I didn't have the experience. I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have the mentorship that I felt like I needed as a coach in a sport that was really, really new to me. I didn't start until I was late in sophomore in high school when this program started. But I've watched you coach teams, and like if I went back in, I have so much more knowledge because I got to see later the things that I needed when I was a coach. And so through my kids playing in your programs, I've learned so much more about the sport. And so I have an appreciation for what you've done.
You could get back in. You could be like Dick
he needs
Vermeil
to.
when he went back to those Rams teams. You hadn't coached in like 20 years or whatever.
Gruden,
Gruden did the same thing. Maybe that's not
Maybe we shouldn't talk about that one,
but no, I just think, I think it was great, number one, to get you back to town. No disrespect to our friends at Rio Grande, but getting you back here, I think, was great. I think you benefited greatly from being in that college environment.
Absolutely.
And you were able to bring that knowledge back here. And I think, for us as a community, we've talked about esports and we've talked about the other things that are going to develop there, but there are things that we're not even thinking of right now that are probably going to develop there that 10, 15 years from now, we're going to say, oh, wow, that was bigger than we thought it was going to be. You know?
Absolutely. Because I mean, like if you look at it now, like pickleball is not necessarily like a high school sport, right? I mean, it's not. But that sport is growing like crazy. There's so many people enjoying it, and like, it's like tagged like a retirement sport, and then young high school kids pick up the paddle because it's happening in the athletic center, and then they start playing. And like I have a love for badminton, so I'm kind of hoping that happens with badminton.
There you go.
But like I think we'll see little like like you said, like new things pop up that we can't even think of right now that become super popular. And there'll be some things I would say, that kind of, drop off, and we've got to, we could dedicate a space for a sport that, isn't as popular. And I think it's going to be important over the long haul that we keep that flexibility and that same thing, that process that we went through where we're like, oh, this could be this could be that. We're going to continue to do that. That's not going to ever end. When we look at the spaces, and that building has the potential to handle that.
You give other sports a chance because of just because of the facility. I mean, just like pickleball, like you're seeing that that is a sport that's growing not just in Chillicothe. It's growing across
everywhere.
Everywhere. But would it have happened if we didn't have that facility?
Well, right. And pickleball was happening in there, but our like a 16-year-old wasn't going in there and picking up a pickleball paddle because they just weren't going in there, right? Like it was happening, and they completely unaware. And now you walk by it, going to your team's practice, and you're like, what is that? And maybe you try it. And I think that's happening also with tennis. I think there's maybe even an appreciation by some other athletes for what tennis really looks like. Because if you don't go to a tennis match, or you just watch it on TV, or flip through, you don't really know what goes on. And then when you see somebody that can really play live, it's a little different. And you get an appreciation for it. And so I think that's
one of my favorite sports.
I picked up a racket on Friday and hit like one serve, and I hadn't played in 30 years probably. And I was like, this game's a lot harder than I remember.
Sounds like pickleball for you.
Exactly,
get in here.
Exactly. So, I mean, look, I think the future is super bright for not only the athletic center, but I think for the district in general.
I agree.
I think a lot of things are trending in the right direction. We got some things we got to fix. Everybody does.
Sure.
But, I think once we get kids used to being in school again, because I think, it's been a tough transition for kids that were out for a full year almost, and then having to have them come back.
Right.
I think with you at the helm at the athletic center, I think we're going to see some great things. And, I'm just super excited about what it, for my kids. I've got kids at intermediate and primary, and I'm just super excited about what that means for them. So, keep doing what you're doing because we're excited to see where it's going to go.
Thanks, me too. I'm pumped.
Well, thanks for joining us, Zach. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
You're listening to the Feels Like Home podcast with Mike Throne and Marty Ford. Powered by Horizon. This is big. This is gig.